Hello, this is Trey again. Welcome back to my channel. And I wanted to talk about Miles Morales. And apparently, there's a rumor going around that Sony has quietly casted a person to be Miles Morales for the upcoming Spider Man 3 movie. And there's some issues with that because not only do you have Miles supposed to be coming back, you have Jamie Foxx being Electro for whatever reason, which technically I don't believe there should be any reason for him to return to the role. Now, if they were doing an Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie with Andrew Garfield, okay, cool. Now there's also Tobey Maguire supposed to be coming back, and Kristen Dunst supposed to be coming back, and the guy who played Harry from Amazing Spider-Man 2, he's supposed to be coming back. Like, what's going on? Like, are we really trying to do this whole Spider-Verse thing? I mean, I guess so, but I would want it to be some kind of build up. I would really want them to introduce a good reason for it. Like, if they introduce Morlon at the end of that MCU Spider-Man 3 movie, that'll be great. Then you can kind of cast into that, whole Spider-Verse thing. Don't wait until you get to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which, no offense, it sounds like a hot mess going on right there as well. But, having Miles Morales in the MCU is tough because the fact that he's already in the MCU. And I know what some people are going to be like, what are you talking about? No, he's not. Yes, he is. You're looking at him every time you see Peter Parker. What? Shocking, you say, right? Yes. The Spider-Man that the MCU is based off of isn't really based off of Peter Parker. It has a few tweaks from Peter Parker, but for the most part, he's technically based off of Miles Morales. I mean, I'm just being honest, Think about all the diverse friends that Peter has. They were all friends of Miles Morales. They just renamed all of Miles's friends as the white friends that Peter had when he was growing up. Because, oh, it's in today's New York, so, blase, diversity, nonsense crap. But if these characters were already white, you keep them white, no matter how much you want to scream diversity. But my thing is, they should have just went ahead and went with Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker. If you really were going to change everything up, and I know Sony has the rights to Spider-Man and Miles and all that good stuff, but if I was Marvel and I'm always preaching about diversity or whatever, I would have thought the first thing I would have did, well, okay, well, we have a black Spider-Man. Great, let's do Miles Morales. We already have Peter Parker, because then you could introduce an older Peter Parker, because it seems like they always want to try to do this. Well, we want Peter Parker, but we kind of don't want him to grow up, but we kind of do want him to grow up. And at this point, we don't already had too many movies and shows showing Peter Parker growing up. The high school Peter Parker thing can only go for so long. It's time for this man to grow up. And if I was doing the MCU, Spider-Man would have already been a hero. You know what I'm saying? He would have been probably at least 8 years into his thing, just like the Spider-Man PS4. That way, when Captain America Civil War happened or whatever, you can still have a Spider-Man solo movie. But this will slowly introduce Miles Morales, and then you have a focus on Miles later on or something like that. But to completely take the story of Miles Morales and tweak it a little bit and give it to Peter Parker makes absolutely no sense, to be honest. I never quite understood that, and it's a good criticism for the MCU Spider-Man, because instead of him feeling like Peter Parker, he feels more like Spider-Boy, and he feels more like Iron Man Jr. Why? Is because they literally took the stuff from Miles Morales' run when he was in the Ultimate Universe and gave it to Peter Parker, really. As much as people be like, oh, well, we don't want to see Uncle Ben dead, blase. First off, we only seen Uncle Ben die 3 times. Like, you guys act like we've seen it as many times as we've seen Batman's parents die. These are fundamental of these characters' origins and stuff like that. You have to remember when people make movies or shows or whatever, books, any kind of thing, they kind of have to talk about that kind of stuff. It's his driving motivation. To ignore that is to ignore the character of Peter Parker himself. It's already bad enough you completely butchered his entire supporting cast. Have you seen what Aunt May looks like? Like, what is that? That's not even an aunt. Well, it is on. It's a fine, hot piece of ass. Oh boy. But you know, that's not what Aunt May should look like at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of funny that we're getting Miles Morales in the MCU, which we already knew he was already in there from that deleted scene. Once again, for all the diversity talk or whatever, you cut out scenes that involve Aaron, who could bring in a little bit more to Miles' story or whatever and stuff like that. You could have added a scene of him visiting his nephew. I know how you guys be like, oh, sometimes there are certain scenes that don't need to be added into it, but since you're going to bring in Miles eventually, you might as well have brought in that kind of scene, some kind of like ending scene or something like that, just to give a little bit more clarity to the character. But it's kind of funny just to see Miles is about to premiere, and it's just like, what are y'all gonna do? But I have a feeling that Marvel probably gonna do what they did with the Insomniac games, when they introduce Miles and maybe something will happen to one of his parents or whatever and stuff like that. His uncle gets this genetic spider by accident. The genetic spider is a new formula that they discovered after the old spider died or something like that, the one that bit Peter. And the spider bites Miles, something like that. So that way they don't have to do the whole origins of, well, Peter Parker died and now here comes Miles Morales. So it's kind of interested on seeing how they do it, because I know Marvel likes Miles Morales, and I know there are some people who don't like him or whatever and stuff like that, which that's neither here nor there with the character. I think he's probably a well done character. I do feel like it's too many spider people. I really wish Miles probably could have been somebody else, but I understand he really was supposed to be a Spider-Man for another universe, not in the main continuity. So, that's a whole little thing or whatever. But it is kind of interesting to see that they actually put a little bit more time and care into Miles. I just wish they would give him a little bit more focus, a little bit more stories, like iconic stories, like when Spider-Man had iconic stories. I want to see iconic Miles Morales stories besides the death of Spider-Man, because the death of Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe is cool or whatever, but it really shouldn't be his highlight, if that makes sense. So we'll see. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, or all that fun stuff. Or if you don't like it, let me know in the comment section below about how much you don't like what I'm saying or whatever. But I like to hear from people or whatever, and I just thought this would be something to discuss. Laters.